Have you ever thought that even the most legendary car brands in the world could have secrets they never wanted the public to see? When you hear the word Ferrari, what comes to mind? Bright red racing machines tearing down the straights of Monza, screaming V12 engines echoing through Italian hills, the glamour of Formula One victories, and the ultimate status symbol for the wealthy elite. Ferrari is not just a car company, it's a myth, a dream, a piece of living history. But what if I told you there was a Ferrari so radical, so futuristic, that it looked like it had landed straight out of a science fiction movie, and yet despite its brilliance it never made it to the roads? What if I told you that Ferrari themselves hid this creation, buried it, and almost erased it from their story? Why would a company obsessed with glory and legacy do something like that? Was the world not ready for it? Or was Ferrari itself afraid of its own genius? This is not the story of the Ferrari F40, the Enzo, or the LaFerrari that you see on posters. This is the story of the forgotten Ferrari, the Ferrari Modulo, a machine so rare and so mysterious that many Ferrari fans still don't even know it exists. And today, we're gonna bring this legend out of the shadows. To understand the forgotten Ferrari, we need to go back to the late 1960s. Picture the world back then. The space race was in full swing, man was about to land on the moon, technology was exploding in every direction, and even the automotive world was caught in this fever of futuristic imagination. Lamborghini had just shocked the world with the Miura, the first true supercar with a mid-engine design. Concept cars were no longer just playful experiments, they were statements of identity and ambition. Ferrari at this time was a company divided between two worlds. On one side, Enzo Ferrari was obsessed with racing victories. For him, cars were tools to win trophies at Le Mans and Formula One, not flashy designs for the showroom floor. On the other side, the designers at Pininfarina, Ferrari's longtime styling partner, wanted to push the boundaries of design and create visions of the future. And out of this tension, something extraordinary was born. Enter the Ferrari Modulo, a car that didn't just look futuristic, it looked like it had come from another planet. Have you ever seen a car so low that it seemed to crawl under the air itself? The Modulo was just 37 inches tall, lower than most people's knees. Its body was a razor-thin wedge, smooth, flat, and shaped like nothing else on the road. Designed by Paolo Martin of Pininfarina, it was unveiled at the 1970 Geneva Motor Show, and when the covers came off, the audience gasped. People didn't know whether they were looking at a car, a spaceship, or a piece of abstract art. The windshield stretched like a dome, the wheels were partially covered by the body, and instead of traditional doors, the entire canopy slid forward to let the driver in. Have you ever imagined stepping into a Ferrari like you're boarding a fighter jet? That was the Modulo. But the Modulo wasn't just a design experiment. Underneath that alien skin was a beast. Ferrari fitted it with a 5.0-liter V12 engine, capable of producing around 550 horsepower. At a time when most cars struggled to hit 130 miles per hour, the Modulo claimed a top speed of 220 miles per hour. 220 miles per hour in 1970. Think about that. That was faster than anything on the road, faster even than most racing cars of its time. If Ferrari had unleashed it, the Modulo could have redefined what people thought was possible for a car. And yet, despite its groundbreaking design and insane performance, Ferrari never put it into production. Why? Why would they create something so revolutionary and then just hide it? The reasons are complicated. First, Enzo Ferrari himself didn't care much for show cars. To him, racing was everything, and the Modulo was a distraction. He was more concerned with winning championships than impressing crowds with futuristic concepts. Second, the early 1970s brought the oil crisis, a time when fuel was scarce, prices skyrocketed, and people questioned the very idea of gas-guzzling supercars. Imagine unveiling a 220 miles per hour Ferrari prototype when the world was lining up at gas stations. It would have looked arrogant, even dangerous to the brand's reputation. And third, there was fear. The Modulo was so radical, so out of this world, that Ferrari may have worried the public simply wasn't ready for it. Instead of risking rejection, they quietly shelved it, treating it like a forbidden experiment. And so, the Modulo became a ghost. For decades it appeared only in a handful of exhibitions, a strange relic that Ferrari never spoke about too loudly. Car magazines would occasionally feature a photo, enthusiasts whispered about it, but for the most part, it disappeared into the shadows of history. Meanwhile, Ferrari went on to build legends like the Testarossa, the F40, and the Enzo. cars that defined generations. But somewhere, locked away, was the modulo, waiting. Have you ever thought about how many great ideas in history were hidden, erased, or forgotten, not because they failed, but because they were too far ahead of their time? The modulo was exactly that. Fast forward to 2014. For more than 40 years, the modulo had been nothing more than a museum piece, a dream frozen in glass and metal. But then something incredible happened. A man named James Glickenhaus, an American car collector and filmmaker, bought the modulo from Pininfarina. Now most collectors would have polished it, displayed it, and left it as a beautiful statue. But Glickenhaus did something insane. He decided to make it drivable. Imagine that. A concept car, a fragile design study from 1970, being restored into a living, breathing machine. His team rebuilt the engine, fixed the mechanics, and brought the modulo back to life. And then one day, in modern New York traffic, people saw it. The forgotten Ferrari, the spaceship from 1970, roaring down real streets, shocking every single person who laid eyes on it. Cell phones came out, crowds gathered, jaws dropped. It was like a myth had suddenly come alive. But let's ask ourselves, why does this matter? Why should the world care about one forgotten Ferrari concept car? The answer is simple. Because it represents the side of Ferrari we rarely see. The side that dreams bigger than reality. The side that dares to build something outrageous, and the side that sometimes hides its brilliance because it doesn't fit the world's expectations. The modulo is a reminder that innovation is not always rewarded immediately. Sometimes the boldest ideas are buried, only to resurface decades later as legends. Today the modulo is celebrated as one of the most radical concept cars ever built. It appears in museums, design textbooks, and even video games. It has become a symbol of what Ferrari dared to imagine but never had the courage to unleash. Have you ever wondered, what if Ferrari had put the modulo into production? What if, back in 1970, the world had been introduced to a 220 miles per hour Ferrari spaceship for the road? Would Lamborghini have been overshadowed? Would the supercar wars of the 1980s have looked completely different? Would Ferrari have defined the future instead of following it? These are questions with no answers, but they make the myth even stronger. The modulo is no longer just a car, it's a story, a legend of what could have been, and perhaps what should have been. And maybe that's the most powerful thing about the forgotten Ferrari. It shows us that history is not just about the winners, not just about the cars that sold millions or won trophies. Sometimes the most interesting stories are about the ones that almost disappeared, the ones that challenged reality so much that even their own creators got scared. The modulo is proof that even Ferrari, the most confident car brand on earth, had a moment where it doubted itself, and in that doubt, it buried a masterpiece. So the next time you see a Ferrari on the street, remember this story. Remember that behind the glamour, behind the victories, behind the billions of dollars in value, there was once a Ferrari that looked like a spaceship, promised to break records, and then vanished into the shadows. Legends are not always about success. Sometimes legends are about what could have been. And the forgotten Ferrari, the modulo, is one of those legends. This is Apex from Mythic Car Stories. Like and subscribe and join the adventure.